Hi, everybody. Bob Hui here with Wild Rose Toastmasters. My special guest today is actually one of our newest members, Katrina Ingram. Now, Katrina and I knew each other way back when in District 21, and then she walked into Wild Rose, and I went, I think I remember you from way back when. So, Katrina, I'm going to ask you the same question that I've asked everybody else that we've done these interviews. Tell us a little bit about your Toastmaster journey, and tell us why you ended up coming to Wild Rose.
Yeah, wow. Well, that goes way back to the mid 1990s when I was a lot younger, and as
Weren't
we
we
all were back
all?
then, Bob.
Weren't we all?
Um, so yeah, I mean, my first sort of introduction to Toastmasters was because I wanted to become a more confident speaker, and I think that's a really common thing for many people coming to the club and just wanting to build my skills. I was a very shy person, did not feel confident even raising my hand in a classroom
Boy, have you
or,
changed.
yeah, yeah. So that was really the kind of the gist of it back then. And then of course I worked through the program and earned my various designations, but I stayed with the program a fairly long time, not just because of building my own skills, but because of the excitement I saw in seeing other people grow and build their skills and giving back to the community. So I was in Toastmasters continuously, I would say, for probably about 15 years. And then my life took a bit of a U-turn, and I decided to go back to school and do a master's degree. And this was, I don't know, maybe about a decade ago now when I first made that decision. And I
Wow,
honestly just didn't have time anymore to keep all those balls in the air. And so I had to let something go. And unfortunately, that was Toastmasters.
that makes sense.
But but now recently, I've decided to come back. And part of, the main reason I would say is I just miss the camaraderie of a group of people who want to see each other grow and develop and get better and are there for each other. And that to me is really important, especially at this stage in my career. And then joining an advanced club for me is about fine tuning. So it's kind of like you've done the basics, you've got those basic skills in place, and we all have our way of speaking that we've learned. But how do we actually refine that and get better? I think that's a question that's on my mind now. And that's really what I'm looking for with an advanced club like Wild Rose.
Well, and hopefully we provide that for you. That's been one of the conversations we've had with a lot of that in terms of people are looking to bump their leadership and they're speaking up a level. And interesting enough, when I interviewed Peter Koswin, when we started Wild Rose 40 years ago, that was exactly the purpose. They said there wasn't any advanced clubs in those days, and they said we need to create a club where people could come and move their skills up a level. And I think we've been doing that, now for over 40 years, which is great. And same thing for me. I joined Toastmasters 34 years ago. I'm still here because I'm still learning. And for me, the biggest thing is the people, which is why doing this little program of interviewing our members is fun because I get to know people that even some people that I've known for like 20 some years of being a member of this club. I'm learning things about them that I didn't know because we're
Cool.
talking about different areas and it's fun. So
Fantastic.
tell us a little bit about where uh, now you've got a company called Ethically Aligned AI.
Yes.
What the
Yeah.
heck is that?
What is that? Yeah, that's a great question. So when I went to do my master's degree back at the University of Alberta, I wandered into a lecture that was being given by an AI researcher. So many people don't realize this, but Edmonton has one of three elite AI institutes in Canada. So the other
Wow.
two were in Montreal and Toronto. I know, and it's like Edmonton, really? Yeah,
Edmonton?
we're a leader in this whole artificial intelligence world. So I wander into this lecture, and it's this AI researcher, and he's talking about AI gone wrong scenarios, all of these harms, unintended consequences, things that have gone off the rails when it comes to AI.
Mm.
And it caught my attention because some of those things were impacting people's lives in really material ways. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about like who's going to get a job, who's going to get a loan, who's going to get access to some resource. A lot of those decisions are being made by these automated systems. And in a lot of cases, there's bias, there's discrimination, there's unfair things happening.
Mm.
And so I saw this talk and it really caught my attention so much so that I made it all my research focus for my master's degree. I looked at this issue of applied ethics and artificial intelligence, and in particular in healthcare, because that's a
Mhm.
domain I'm really passionate about. And so in doing that work, I graduated in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and I wanted to keep going and doing this work. I didn't see organizations focused on this topic yet, but I knew it would be a big thing. And
Mhm.
so I decided to launch my own company, Ethically Aligned AI, which is all about A, raising awareness that this is happening, and then B, we provide educational training and ways to address some of these issues. And as part of that, do a lot of speaking, of course. So that's really what I'm doing now. My focus is really very much on these issues. And since the launch of ChatGPT in 2022 and generative AI and all this discussion about artificial intelligence, everybody wants to really understand these technologies in a deeper way. So it's been a really interesting time to kind of pivot and be in this space.
I find it interesting. It's like one of my friends, Cheryl Rausch, who was one of the authors for the book that we did to celebrate Toastmasters this year, and the Company of Leaders, put a cover on, and she was saying blah 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 blah. And by the way, I'm in the book too, and I'm looking at the bottom, and there's some little things saying who is Bob Hui and stuff, and I'm clicking on it, and I'm going, oh, somebody wrote that. Well, no, actually, AI wrote that, and some of it was really good. Some of it was probably
Was
better
it
than I
accurate,
could
or
write.
did it say Bob Huey's an astronaut, an
No,
intergalactic
actually, the stuff
traveler?
about me was interesting. There was a part in there because Neil Wilkinson, who's a member of our club, did the foreword for this issue, and it said, Neil Wilkinson wrote Legacy of Leadership. No, I wrote that. So there was some mistakes and stuff
Ah,
in there, but the part I read, I went, that's really interesting because I mean, I scratch my brain trying to come up with stuff to say who am I and what do I do, and it changes because I'm getting older, and as the business changes, some of what I'm providing is changed too. It's the same thing like with Toastmasters. Things have changed. We're just waiting to see what happens with the new pathways because I guess the 9th to the 25th they're going to be launching the six that are going to remain, and they're updating them and whatever. And so everybody's waiting to see how is it going to roll out and whatever. But uh, I mean, you were involved in Toastmasters way back. I was involved over 34 years. We've seen some major changes. Back before I
yeah.
started, uh, just previous to when I started, maybe a few years, you used to have to do 15 speeches to get a CTM. And then it was changed to 10 because they were worried they were losing too many people and whatever. And, all these different changes over the year. And every time we make a change, people go, oh my God, you know, and it seems to work out. You know?
Well, the cool thing about Pathways for me, so I actually left right before Pathways came in. I'd heard about it, I knew it was coming, but that was kind of when I was making my exit. So I'm coming back at a time right where when Pathways is changing, and I don't know what that in between is. So for me, that whatever this new thing is going to be my version of Pathways that I know for the first time because I don't have any of that other history. And so it's kind of an interesting time for me, kind of coming back right now at this moment where they're literally switching up pathways to be
Yeah.
something different. But this is my first like introduction to pathways.
Well, I think that's good. I think it's going to get better. I mean, they've worked on it. I think the biggest problem was they wanted to do something because they had a team of learning masters with people like me all over the world. And for about 2 years, we talked about how to change the program. And somewhere along the line, they bought this program and converted it to Pathways. And the sad part was that it was somebody else's program, and we tried to make it fit. And for the first little while, it didn't fit very well. And there was a lot of repetition. So hopefully what they're doing it is making it work. So if you're doing more than one path, the level one is exactly the same or was exactly the same. So it's repetitive. And so for me, being me, I would do the other levels and I go back later and do level one to finish. But so I'm actually at a point where I'm debating because it's going to be out for 2 weeks whether I should buy my new path because I've got all these speeches. Like I've done about five in the last 3 months that I've had evaluated that I need to park somewhere, and I don't know where to park them because I haven't picked a path yet.
Hmm,
But I guess as the
interesting.
president, I should be leading by example and doing another path.
Well, it kind of, if you kind of we get philosophical about this, Bob, there's also people who like to start lots of paths, right? Like
Yeah.
when I think of pathway, it's like pick a path and stay on the path and do the path. That's a certain kind of personality for sure. And I think we do all set goals and we want to achieve things, but then there's also people who are just kind of, they like to wander a little bit, right? And so maybe that's where the pathway doesn't line up for them, even
I
from
know,
a
I
mental
know.
model standpoint.
Well, it's nice now that you can, when you first started, you couldn't do anything unless you did this part and then you could go forward. Now at least you can get some of the speech things from other pieces of the path further on. You can't register them until you've worked your way through. But because I'm doing things when I need to do them, because it's like when I'm back in the old days, I was working on almost like about 9 advanced manuals. I got
Wow.
my ATM and my ATM and silver really quick because I didn't realize that the 15 speeches meant you had to have 5 speeches in, like three sets of fives. I had like 15 speeches, but they were about 6 manuals.
Right.
They didn't tell me that. So I'm working, this is a good speech, I'll do that one. This is a good speech, I'll do that one because it's interesting. So let
Oh,
me ask you a question. How
hmm.
how is Toastmasters helping your business?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to make some connections. And I think the heart of any kind of a business is networking. And the heart of networking is getting to know other people, and especially people not in your own circle. So I have my networks of other people who are like me, who are working in responsible AI or even working in AI. And that's great. It's fantastic to know people there. But what I think is even more important is to get out of your bubble and to meet people who are in other industries, other worlds, just other walks of life, that sort of thing. And I find Toastmasters is really great for that because it
Mhm.
attracts a really diverse group of people with different perspectives, different backgrounds and histories, and that kind of thing. So I think that is really useful from a networking standpoint. And then that's really useful from a business standpoint.
And the other thing is, if you like to travel, it's a great way to meet new people.
Yeah, that's
I do
true.
that when I do that when I'm traveling. If I have time, I reach out to Toastmasters in the various locations. Like I was speaking in Stockholm on the 17th yeah, this month. We're still in September when we're recording this. And I suggested to the lady, I said, why don't you reach out to the Toastmasters in town? Because there might be some of them that are interested in professional speaking. I was speaking for NSA Sweden, and 6 of them showed up. And they had some really good questions because they were interested in making that jump from Toastmasters to being a professional speaker, which is what I did and what you've done. And they were really energetic. And after the thing, the 6 of them took Irene and I out for lunch, and we had another couple of hours.
Nice.
So this is an unknown, uh, underwhelmed or underutilized situation. If you travel, it's a great way to make new friends
Yeah,
in
for
other
sure.
countries. And we have a similar focus. So even maybe the languages is a challenge. We can connect. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you a question in terms of, because of the AI, that's your expertise. How can we tap into that? And because I really don't know how it works per se, to help Wild Rose.
That's a
Was that for a
fantastic
challenge
question.
for you?
Yeah, really interesting question. A lot of the questions that people ask me, because I work on, I just want to clarify, maybe I work more on responsible AI, which is really thinking about the ethical issues and some of
Okay.
those harms and unintended consequences. So I think there's a lot of other people who talk about, especially vendors, people trying to sell you stuff, who talk about, oh, it's going to do this and that, and it's going to, improve your productivity and all those things. And there's some truth to that. But a lot of what I sit with are kind of those questions around, sometimes it makes more sense to struggle with something a little bit. Maybe
Okay.
convenience isn't always the best thing for you. But
Okay.
then there are times, of course, when, maybe you just want to get something done quickly. So thinking through like how people are using, and I guess the other thing I'll say, Bob, is the way things are moving with the technology is, this is the pro and con. You don't necessarily have to know a lot of things to use it. I mean, it's as easy as kind of typing some things into a box. I'm
Okay.
oversimplifying just a little bit because there's, ways that you can formulate that. But then automation, that's what automation does, right? You get to a point where you don't have to shift gears in your car anymore. You just drive, and you maybe have your 2 gears because it's an automatic vehicle. Or if
Okay.
you move to an autonomous vehicle, now you're no longer driving at all, right? And so you can think about any automation during that, down that pathway. So what are the things we might need to do? Well, maybe we want to reach more people in terms of our membership. So maybe that looks like social media, and maybe that looks like helping to write some of the posts for social media and helping to get the word out there about the club and what's going on in the club. That's kind of one example, possibly,
Okay.
because who has time to write all of those posts yourself or to, do all of that work? So that's kind of one use case in terms of automation. Personally, maybe if you're working on a speech and you're needing to come up with some ideas, let's say, because you're a little bit stuck on something, you've got a notion of what you might want to speak on, but you need some help to figure out where to go next. Maybe you can ask AI a question about what you want to write about and then use that as a jumping off point. So that's a little bit more of a personal way of
Mhm.
looking at it, because I know a lot of people get stuck with speeches. So those are some things that just kind of immediately come to mind. But I guess the cautionary piece, and I always have to say this because I'm talking about the ethical side of it too, is you have to really think about how reliant do I want to be on this tool versus how much am I going to put in the work to learn things on my own. And so it's striking that right balance of using it in ways that can help to enhance you and help you grow, as opposed to, leaning back and letting AI take over, so to speak.
Well, and the idea is to learn how to use it as a real tool, a help tool, rather than letting it do all the work. Because I know there's been some pushback on people that are using AI to write books and speeches, and it's not really them,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
I think that's the ethics part for me. I hear people saying that, and I go, yeah, that's fine, but is it really you? If all you're doing is compiling what you're pulling from it, in some cases actually reads well. But is it
Mm-hmm.
really you? And I mean, I guess for me, because I've done 30 some books and I've sweated over them, and
Mm-hmm.
my wife has sweated over the editing, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, that's almost too easy to get something, but it is like it's missing the soul of what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But I'd still, from my perspective, in terms of doing what we need to do for the club, especially this year, is if there's some way we can harness aspects of AI to help us promote Toastmasters and entice a few people within the district to say, hey, let's go check out this advanced club. And maybe it really fits my schedule. Maybe it fits my path I need to walk. That would be helpful. And maybe it would be something that we could have as a meeting focus and a little educational on how to do some of this. Hint, hint,
Mm-hmm.
nudge, nudge. That could be something you could
Yeah, well, and
share.
so you're not the first club to have asked me that. Actually, I'm doing another educational slash open house AI session for another club early next year as well. But for sure, like, this is my home club, and we can definitely have those conversations. And some of this stuff I think will come up naturally in some of my own projects and work that I do with the club itself. So we'll see where it goes.
That would be wonderful. So to conclude, what would you say to somebody who is already a Toastmaster and is thinking about bumping their skill set to a higher level?
Yeah, I think that what can happen sometimes, and I saw this happen in my own Toastmasters career, is, you get very comfortable, you love your club, you love the people, all of that's great, but there's a certain point where you are the most advanced person in your club from a skills perspective, and I'm speaking very objectively here, because I
Mhm.
mean there's always more we can learn, but there becomes a point where you're the person that nobody has any challenges for, and you're doing, you're supposedly doing everything flawlessly, and we know that that's not true, right? We know that that's not true, but what it means is we become the big fish in the small
Yeah,
pond, and
yeah.
it's time to go out and play with some other big fish at that point. And that to me is the moment where you should really consider an advanced club, because you will meet, well, bigger fish than you. And so I think, and that's a good thing. It's good to go back into that space where it's like, wow, X person is in this club. Oh my goodness, I'm going to learn a lot from them. And these
Mhm.
people are going to give me that feedback. And it's still the same supportive environment. And you're going to find that camaraderie and friendship with this new group, but you've just taken yourself out of that small pond where you've become the big fish and putting yourself into the bigger lake or the ocean. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's actually the purpose of doing these interviews is like I told people at the meeting on Thursday, I said, my plan on this is to use you as our members as an enticement to people to say, hey, if you like this person, come and hang out with them. And because I believe that we have some amazing people in Rose. I mean, I've been here 24 years and I learned so much from the people in our club that I want to extend that to other people and invite them. So I want to say to you, when you're watching this, whenever it is you're watching us, we meet normally the last Thursday of the month in the Seville Center in Edmonton. And we're also available online. We're doing hybrid. So we'd love to see you, and we would love to have you come and check us out and maybe, like Katrina, become one of our newer members. So thank you so much, Katrina.
Thanks, Bob.